Okay, we're live on Facebook. I love it. I want to get you big in my face here. Where are you? Sorry, where's Kathie? Okay, so welcome, Kathie. I am so excited about having you here. It's not even funny. I'm so lucky. Where? There. Oh, there you are. There's that beautiful face. So we have a couple of participants and we're on Facebook Live. So I just would like to say how honored I am that you could take some time out with me and we can talk a little bit about COVID and yourself and how you're coping and sharing with the world your thoughts and always full of great advice. Kathie and I have known each other for what, 2 years now?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, through our business group. So I was really privileged to get to join there and meet you. And Kathie has 2 books and speaks on City TV and has lots of things that she can share with us. But you're probably the best person because you have the best elevator introduction ever. So I'll let you even introduce yourself.
Well, that was a brilliant segue, Lori. You see the benefits of being a member of Bob Clubs International?
I know, it's so true.
I like to tell people, Lori, that I'm on a mission to help our world evolve in the direction of more goodness, more kindness, more positivity, and more courage. I also like to say that I help people unlearn what they think they know to be true so that they can see their true possibilities, the real possibilities in their life. So at this time, it occurred to me about a week into this lockdown that I have been preparing for a time like this for about 7.5 years. Because when I left my job at CTV, where I co hosted and co produced a show called Regional Contact with Joel Haslam, I started out on a journey. I really had no compass. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just kind of followed my hunch that I had something to share. And, it comes down to this: our attitude in life determines the results we get. And I know you understand that because, like me, you have a very can do attitude, right? And we know that that's a combination of having a wealth of courage and having a wealth of resilience. So it speaks to our experience in life and how we've navigated through different challenges. And instead of saying, why is this happening to me? We've asked this question: what can I learn from this? That's the gold in life. And so I feel that right now we are all miners for the gold in the experience we're all having. The really cool thing about this lockdown, I mean, we have to look for a silver lining. And I should say, it's not without gravity in my life that I talk about the things I do, because I'm very well aware that there's a pandemic. I'm very well aware that people are dying. I'm well aware of what's happening in the world, but I don't let fear run my life. And that's what I want to encourage people to look at this time. While we mine for the good in our lives and the lessons we can all learn at this time, we have to remember that overdosing on news can be as toxic as drinking poison. For one thing, that fear that's sort of nurtured by watching too much news, because that's what happens to us. We become afraid. That actually shuts our immune system down. So if we're talking about wanting to be healthy and wanting to focus on our wellness, we have to manage how much of that we're exposing ourselves to. So that's one thing I think we all need to be responsible for, is to get informed about what's happening, stay up to date with what's happening, but don't overdo it. I say it's like quicksand. If you take a step in and you stay too long, it can start to suck you in. And then it becomes an addiction because you think if you know more, it's going to make you feel calmer. But actually, it's the opposite, isn't it? We feel more stressed. And then we're not sleeping at night and we're not getting our sleep. We're not able to function during the day. So there are so many layers to this. And for each one of us, I think it's a different experience depending on our circumstance. I know that you have your dad with you at home. And I say, I'm sure your dad is thrilled that you're around, because otherwise he'd be on his own during the day. And you say, well, it's 6 weeks. I don't know about that. But I'll tell you this, what we're all craving in life is some kind of connection with another person.
Mm-hmm.
So I know some people who have moved in with their parent when this thing went down, so that their parent was not alone through this, because
Yeah.
it just makes it a whole heck of a lot easier if we have that social connection somehow. And it's got to be more than a Zoom call every once in a while, right? So there's
Oh,
so many layers.
I've picked up on Zoom only during this, but you're right, like either moving in with family members, because it's harder to know that your family's not there. You know,
Yeah.
I've got one of the boys here at home, but the other one isn't. And you know, you'd rather that they were with you. It's such an interesting time, right? That, you know, you're always looking for independence, but all of a sudden you just want to have everybody as close to you as possible. Yeah, it's
Well, we're all being
nuts.
threatened. I mean, we're all feeling threatened by the same thing. And we want
Yeah.
to gather in our tribe. That's what we want to do, is have our tribe close. So what I
Hmm.
found was, like, basically, I know I'm a very sort of outgoing person professionally. That's my job. I love my job, but actually I'm a very introverted person. I spend a lot of time in introspection all of my life. So
Yeah.
when this first happened to me, I came back from Florida on the 14th of March, like the day after I think it was declared that this we're not doing this anymore. And
Yeah.
for me, the first few weeks were kind of like, well, this is kind of a holiday for me, because I don't have to do the things that I feel pushed to do in my work. I can be
Hmm.
introspective and I can gather my thoughts. And you know what? It was the most beautiful experience, because what happened in that short time was I realized I have a job to do now. I have to get out there and use what I've mined for over the last number of, like, 20 years or so, since I've been studying the work that I teach. And I have to help people keep their wigs on, because people were just starting to come a little bit unglued and losing perspective and not knowing where to turn. So
Yeah.
at least, you know, I'm one person who can offer some little island to hold on to, some ideas. So I started producing content that I thought might be helpful to people. And I feel the response has been really good. And so I keep going. And we just, you know, we don't know in when we find our purpose and serve in a way that's just really authentic. I'm not looking for money for what I'm doing. I'm just doing it because it's the right thing.
Hmm.
We never know when we put that extra work in, what reward there will be on the other side. And you know, I'll reflect back to you, Lori, what you and I talk about in your business and the way that you operate, because like me, you have a standard of excellence, and that's just not going to be compromised. That's one of the things that I've always felt defines you as a businesswoman. And you go above and beyond for your clients. It's one of the things that you're missing right now, is
Hmm.
that ability to help people, to serve them in some way. So what I've observed that you've done is you've simply pivoted. You've taken advantage of the opportunity to take some workshops and courses so that you're learning something and bettering yourself as a real estate agent. And then you're sharing on Facebook and wherever else you're sharing these videos, ways for people to keep their wigs on and keep
Yeah.
perspective and keep going forward, because real estate is not done. I mean, real estate is still happening, and real estate will be happening on the other side of this. So the question I have from my coach clients and the people that I work with at the Wellings, for example, in that community is, what do you want your life to look like on the other side of this? Because you're creating that right now. So we have to be very savvy about what we're focusing our thoughts and attention on right now. If we're, you know, lying around and not being productive in any way, what is that actually creating? It creates malaise, it creates depression ultimately, and inaction. When we
Hmm.
put in that extra effort now, we're going to benefit on the other side of this, because we're going to feel good that we used our time productively in some way. It doesn't have to be work related. It can be being of service by being part of a phone tree, or calling a lonely person once a week or once a day, whatever works for you. But finding some purpose and enhancing ourselves during this time is really the correct answer.
It is a little bit of purpose. I'm on my sixth week because, you know, my dad's at home. So, and we had noticed that people had coughs at work and that sort of thing. So my team was feeling a little bit uncomfortable. So we, I took the lead, and we ended up leaving the office before it was closed, and even before it was suggested by Doug Ford, because I could kind of see what was happening. So I'm like in my 6th week, and I find that now, the first couple of weeks, I did have a lot of purpose. I was really busy till about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But I mean, there's also only so much you can do, when you're not doing face to face. And we were really busy through that period. And the last week or so, I noticed that if I don't have a purpose, if I don't have something specifically that I need to do or want to do, even if it's just reading a book, the day can just one day turns into another. And I can hear Fox News, because of course my dad's a little bit older, so he loves Fox News, and the CP24 from Toronto, and you hear it in the background like all day long, and it starts to get really agitating, and you can very easily slip into fear. And
Yeah.
if you're in fear, you're immobile, right?
Yeah.
And so like now you can tell it's quiet in the house, but I'm telling you, the news was on like almost 24/7. And I really could feel, the stress level and the worry, just permeating throughout the house. So it really cut that down an awful lot, which I think is important. I think, to your point, if we live in fear, we're certainly not going to take this time. When in our lives have we ever, as an entire community and the whole world, had to shut down and really start to think, and look at what we have and what we don't have, what we should be grateful for? I mean, when would we ever? It is a gift. It's a horrible,
Yeah.
gift in a lot of ways, but on the other hand, there is something to be said for it. We always say that we should be thinking about what we want out of life and who we want to be, but we're so busy being that we never get this chance. And so, yeah, you could certainly take advantage of it, which is part of the reason why I thought I might as well take a course. It's a little bit more discipline. It's got a purpose. It's something I was wanting to do that I didn't have time for. So yeah, it can be good, but I mean, there's still a lot of different ways for everybody to cope, because there's a lot of people that are alone, that don't really have anybody, or they don't have a career or whatever. And I think we're all in very different stages. There's people that are essential workers. There's people that have been laid off that are really concerned. So we do have a lot of different layers out there. I think too that, it's for some people to be like, how can you actually think that you should be positive about this and learn from this when I'm trying to find, my meal for the day? 'Cause
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going on too,
Yeah, I think it is going on. And uh, following up on that, I think this is what I'm noticing anyway, is so much humanity stepping up, for people who have lost jobs and people who are frontline workers and people who are alone. We are seeing that people are willing to reach out, but we also have to remember that I can't read anybody's mind. So if somebody is having a tough time, they need to extend their hand. They need to ask for that help. And that's what we're seeing now, is people willing to extend a hand and take a hand. The people delivering food to our vulnerable folks. I mean, there are just so many layers of that goodness happening too. But I don't want to miss the opportunity to mention something in all of this. Yes, there are so many different scenarios happening, but for some of us, it is a call to rest. That's another thing that I think we have to talk about a little bit, is that some of us are going so fast, or were before the brakes got put on, that we don't know what to do with ourselves now that we don't have that regime that we're used to, that structure that we're used to, or in some cases the adrenaline that we're used to manifesting in a day. So we're a bit lost, but that's also an opportunity to make time to just be. And sometimes in that just being, you might come upon something that might help you when you do return to a life, whatever that looks like on the other side. And, my husband Kensel and I both practice meditation on the regular. It's something that I feel has really built resilience in me and has helped me when times get tough to have a kind of well, at the ready so that I don't completely come unglued. It's a weird thing and hard to explain. And there are a million types of meditation. They're not all om in a chair on a cushion, whatever. There are so many ways to look at this subject. And I think for people who feel a little bit like really discombobulated, where they have no other issue except like, I'm so used to going, maybe it's time to take a look at something like that. Maybe we can learn something more about ourselves and deepen our understanding of who we are and what we're here for and how we can be better at all of it on the other side of this. So that call to rest is as important as a call to purpose, I feel.
Well, it's funny you say that because that was we had our Zoom meeting for the breakfast business over breakfast meeting this week, and there's a certain amount of guilt if you're a type A or you have a high pressure job, right? And so there's a certain amount of guilt that I'm not getting enough done, and how can I help, and what can I do here, and what can I do there? But it actually, you and your lovely love to me always comes out. And I thought, that's true. Like I shouldn't feel guilty about a little bit of rest either, and in the rest, it does allow different things to maybe come out that you haven't had a chance because you're just on this, wheel all the time. So, there is something good from that. Now, finding the motivation to do some of those projects or whatever, may be a little bit more of a challenge. But I was reading something else today about, you shouldn't feel guilty, like you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And, unless you're binge eating and Netflix binging and all of that and doing absolutely nothing, we're all where we're supposed to be. I think we were meant to have, a reset, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the pictures from all over the world and there's not as much pollution anymore. There's a reason why we're seeing pictures like that, so I think we're all on a timeout for a good reason.
Yeah. And I may not have all my cupboards edited at the end of this, and I'm okay with that too, because I felt the pull to create content that will help people keep their wigs on. And that's my call to action. So for me, it's time to ramp up. Whereas for other people, it's time to just cool out a little bit and back up a little bit, because believe me, we're going to ramp up again and things are going to come back online, whatever it looks like on the other side of this, Lori. But, we want to be prepared in the best way that we possibly can. And I'll go back to my initial point. It's all about our attitude. And so the bottom line in everything that I teach and talk about in the bottom line of my life really is appreciation and gratitude. It's been a superpower. It's a power tool in my life. The more I appreciate what I have, the more I have to appreciate. And the more I attract what I really want to appreciate in my life. So that's really kind of, an opportunity. It sounds a bit hokey to some people, but if you haven't figured out that you have so much, if you have a roof over your head, and you have heat in your home, especially waking up today with the snow, you have running water, if your heart is beating and you're breathing, I think, you have a lot to be grateful for. So it's as simple as that. And that's I find the really interesting thing in all the people that I'm talking to on my Zoom calls, on the Kathie Chat series, is this idea that life just really got simple. And we're all taking time now to appreciate all of the things we do have. And we're asking ourselves, how much do I really need?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and then we're looking at all the things we have, and do we need to keep all these things? Like, could we do some editing so that we feel better? Some of us just have piled on stuff over the years, and we've just got all this stuff. But does that stuff define you? Not at all. It might be a good memory or two, but what do we really want going forward, and what do we want to feel as we navigate through this? So, appreciation really is, I think, a power tool that we can all call on that will help calm us down when we think we don't have enough or we haven't done enough, all those things that we were feeling in the rat race before, kind of thing.
I know. I see Colleen has a question here for you. She says, Kathie, do you think we will learn to slow down after this or just go back to our normal lives?
Oh, Colleen. Hi, Colleen. I love you. It's a great question, but here's what I believe. I don't think we're going back to anything. I think we're going forward. And I think whatever we want our lives to look like on the other side of this is what we're going to focus on today. So if we're going to be able to focus on appreciation for what we have right now, if we're going to focus on finding purpose, whether it's within your work frame, doesn't matter. It could be, as I said before, maybe you make a purpose out of calling somebody once a day to check in on them. Or, you just have some sort of structure in your life that gives you meaning, that gives meaning to your life. And so that you're serving other people, the way will be shown to you what you need to do next. And so when we cultivate these types of ideas where it's about service to others and it's about appreciation and clarity for what we really want, because if what you really want is to feel good, then you've got to think thoughts, speak words, and take actions that are going to fuel what it is you really want. And it's a bit of a job to get clear about what you really want and how you really want to feel. And then it's another bit of a job to line up your thoughts, words, and actions, because our thoughts are like having a million squirrels in there, especially in this time when fear is that undercurrent of everything. We're all uncomfortable, we're all unsure, we're all afraid. So my question is, so yes, that's true. And that's true in my life too. But what do I want my life to look like on the daily going forward? Because nobody's saying this threat, so-called, is going away anytime soon. So if we allow that overwhelm of Fox News and CNN and all the stuff to run us, we will go nowhere. We will stay stuck. And that's a fear thing. And that's also not good for our health and wellness. So we have to decide we're going to call on courage. We're going to get clear about what we want. We're going to be more kind, more compassionate, more empathetic. We're going to speak that way, think that way, and act that way toward everybody. And my guarantee is that on the other side of this, your world will look more like that than it did before we started.
Yeah, I think you're right. I was looking at somebody had posted an article, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And, yeah, did you see that article? And they were saying, right now we're just at stability and safety. And I think that's so interesting because, normally the entire world is at different stages of Maslow's hierarchy, but really and truly, we're all at the same level, right? We're concerned about safety, health.
Yep.
That's why we're all at home. And so it doesn't matter if you have been highly successful and you're a multimillionaire and you're a CEO of a company. It doesn't matter if you're the queen. Everybody is at the same level, which is such an interesting comment on the world, So it's I think one thing for me that I've always been driven because I've been a single mom and, with two boys. So my work has always been to make sure that I took care of my family. And, here we are now, and it's the most important thing that I could be doing is taking care of my family. And, but I mean, I can think of lessons financially, lessons psychologically. I can think of all different ways that at the end of this, when I come out on this, there's definitely a few adjustments that I will definitely be making. It won't be that I'm not working as hard, but it'll also be, we need to be smart if this ever happened again, because, there's a lot of people that weren't prepared for this at all, that are even more impacted. And so, it's a really interesting time. The facets of this blow your mind if you really want to sit down and think about it.
Well, and we can't, it's almost nebulous. You can't nail it down to actually analyze it. But let's go back to Maslow's pyramid, because your point about safety, it reminds me that we're all in the same boat, all over the world. All over the world, everybody is experiencing the same feelings. We all have the same feelings pop into our head. We all have the same ideas and thoughts. Oh my God, blah, 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 blah. It's like those squirrels living in your brain going squirrely all over the place. But the one thing that we can focus on now and that you're seeing so much of is empathy. Because we all understand the same threat. We're all experiencing the same threat. So we're all looking out for our safety because we're all threatened by the same thing. So it reminds me to remind you, because I remind myself all the time, and I remind all my coach clients, when you're talking with people, remember, if they say something funny, that's what fear makes us do. Fear makes us do and say funny things. So we have to remember to be kind and empathetic and let them off the hook, because just like you, they're doing the best with what they can. Now, the other thing I don't want to encourage anybody to do is to get into anybody else's circus, because there are a lot of circuses going on out there. There are a lot of people who are not doing what the Prime Minister of Canada has asked us to do, well, including the Prime Minister, actually, when he said to stay home and not travel, and then he goes to the cottage.
Yes.
Come on.
Okay. And he's been introduced into another home, which we're not supposed to do. And we didn't have those people in our houses for Easter Sunday. Okay. We're not going to be political here, right?
Right. Yeah, that's right. But I mean, it doesn't matter what your political stripe is. You can't overlook that. But anyway, I think the thing to remember is that when somebody else is doing something you don't approve of, zipta, go back to focusing on what you can do in your life to help calm the fear and make yourself feel good. That's what we have to do is, I hear about people meddling in other people's stuff and telling them they should be doing this and that and that and this and that and this. And I just remind them, get back in your lane, get back in your lane, get back in your lane, because your hobby should not be meddling in other people's business ever, ever, but especially
now.
Yeah, especially now. So we can learn this lesson of judgment, no judgment. Let people do what they're going to do. If they fall off the cliff, well, you kind of warned them, or they knew better. If they did, I mean, if there's somebody who can't help themselves, please help them. But if there's somebody who's grown up and knows better, you cannot manage the world. So we need to get back in our lane, get off judgment, show them compassion. Just be you, do you, and let them do them. I mean, that's.
Yeah. Well, we talk about the TV and the news being very toxic. I think social media too, like, I've gone through the social media, and, there's a lot of toxic people, judging others, having absolutely no idea why, they may be going to the grocery store or whatever it is. And that's definitely been a lesson that I've noticed, because I'm not judging anybody, but I've noticed that there's a lot of people that are, I guess that's just the way that they're coping with things, right?
Exactly. That's it. That's how it is. And what they're saying about somebody else is really a reflection of them. It has nothing to do with the other person's actions. No. Wayne Dyer taught that. What you think of me is none of my business, because it's a reflection of you. So on my Facebook feed, on my personal page, I go through and unfollow anybody who doesn't. If you're not with me, I don't mind you being in my world, but I just don't want to have to see your stuff if it's not aligned.
Yeah.
Because time is so precious, life is so precious. I want to hang with people who are aligned, where we're going in the same direction. And if I can be a beacon of light for somebody, awesome. It doesn't matter to me if it is or you aren't, or it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just doing me the best I can, period. That's all I know. Yeah. And on my professional page, I stick to doing things that are really, I feel, going to be helpful. And maybe it's to 5 people, and that's okay. If one person benefits, I've done a good job. So that's kind of how I look at it. I think it's really important right now to ramp up our empathy and our compassion and wind down our judgment. And as they say on Coronation Street, wind our necks in and get back in our lane and do good in our world, the world that we can manage.
I think that as we're talking, I'm thinking there's so many lessons and so many moments in all of this that happen. And, when we get back to whatever it is on the other side of this, I hope that we can remember what we learned now, and you just made me think I probably should get back to journaling again. I think that would be an awesome thing to be doing right now, so that, we can remember our thoughts in this, because I think we will tend to forget about 70% of it when this is all over.
It's a great suggestion. And also because we're kind of in survival mode, right? So we will sort of put it away later on, but I'll repeat what I said before. The life you're living now is what you're creating for your future. So we want to create micro habits now that benefit us when we get back to whatever that looks like over there on the other side of this thing. So when you talk about journaling, great habit to have no matter what's going on. Mm-hmm. So it's a wonderful thing that you have time now, and that gives you purpose. So that's a brilliant suggestion. I even say keep a gratitude journal. So in your journal, 5 things every day you're grateful for, because it grounds you. You write it down and you really will see it to appreciate it. It makes it real when you write it down. When you think about it, it's okay. But when you write it down, that's powerful. So I love that suggestion, Lori. And I think we could all take a page out of that book and do the same thing.
Yeah. I just wrote it down. I'm definitely going to do that for sure. What do we have here? Kathie, here's another question. Do you have any tactics to deal with the fear from all of this to help stop feeling panicked?
Panicked?
Yeah. Do you have any tactics to deal with the fear and to help us stop feeling panicked?
Well, we've covered, we have to remember that news has a job to do, a very big job to do, and a big role to play keeping us informed. Yeah. So the currency of television stations is news. That's what they're selling, and that's what we're buying. But we're in charge of the budget. So 100%, in order to manage fear, you have to manage how much exposure you have to news. I love news people. I love credible journalists. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's in your best interest to spend too much time exposing yourself to that. That's number 1. Number 2 is start to be present in your life. Right now, unless your life is in danger, you have a lot to be grateful for. So start looking at what it is you appreciate in your life, as hokey as you may think that sounds, especially to a mind consumed with fear. It sounds like the opposite of what you should be doing, because fear is like, take all the pieces and go home. It's lack. It's not having enough. It's holding all your parts. It's not being open. But we want to shift that energy out. We want to ask fear to sit in the back seat and bring compassion, empathy, and kindness into the front seat to drive the bus with us. Because you in the driver's seat, the only thing you're in charge of in your life ever, this is pandemic or not, the only thing you're in charge of are your thoughts. You can't control life's events on a good day. You can't control another person on a good day. But you can control your thoughts and your response to everything. And that's a big responsibility because, it seems to be okay to be afraid all the time. Mm-hmm. We seem to be okay with that. But that's not making us feel good, and it's not helpful to living a productive life. We have to live out of that.
It's not even healthy, right?
It's not. It really isn't. But appreciation is. Being grateful for what you have is a useful thing for you because it actually produces a feel good. It produces a hormone in your body that makes you feel better. So that's a start. Then you have to look at courage, get clear about what you're afraid of. So ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? And write that question down, and then write down the answer. Because fear can be, unnamed. We can just say, well, I'm very afraid. How do I get rid of this? Well, what is it? What are you afraid of? Name it. Because the moment you name it, you take away some of its power. And then you can start to shift your focus away from what you're afraid of because, okay, let's say you're afraid of getting sick. You're afraid of contracting COVID-19. Okay, if you're afraid of that, then what do you want to focus your attention on? On your wellness, on your self-care, on how much you're managing, washing your hands, touching your face, staying at home. Do the things that you can do. Because when you start to do those things, you feel better in these practices, these micro habits. And fear is now in the back seat because you've named it. You said, sit in the back. I'm going to start focusing my attention on being kind toward people. So, for example, tomorrow I'm going to make a casserole and I'm going to put a little portion or two and drop that off at a friend's door. That's an act of kindness. I made cookies last week about 5 times and dropped off little bags at my neighbors' homes. That's an act of kindness. That's something I can do. I have a couple of friends who are on their own. I give them a call. We have a little FaceTime. Just that gives me purpose. And any one of us can find some of that to do. So those are just a couple of ideas that I feel we can start to put into practice right away. The other thing is to surrender the stories that you repeat over and over and over again about what you're afraid of. You know, and that comes back to watching news. Like, be careful that you're not starting to tell yourself all those things and talking yourself into something you don't want. Because when you, what you want is to feel calm, you have to feed that feeling with your thoughts, your words, and your actions. So your thoughts have to be calmed down, and you have to find a way to do that. I'll go back to meditation again. Go on YouTube, look up, you know, music meditation, or you know, guided meditation, and find some island out there to hold on to that will help make you feel calmer. And then when you speak, speak calmly. And when you act, act in a calm way. If you want peace, it's the same thing. Think peacefully. Look at videos that fill you up. Don't look at news all the time. Go online and look at things. Cat videos are great medicine. Look at my page, Kathie Donovan Personal Development. I've got interviews there that are positive, and we have lessons, and I do happy hour once a week. You know, I'm just thinking that we all can take responsibility for ourselves now. And we all have to take responsibility and take our power back from fear, because that's the thing that's landed in our lap. Now it's here. What are we going to do about it? So I hope those are some ideas that might just stir things up a little wee bit to shift how you see what you're dealing with right now.
Well, I love that you know that you say that, because I had posted something on my Facebook today that really resonated with me, and it was, hope and fear cannot occupy the same space at the same time, right?
Yep.
So you
Yep.
have you decide who you're going to invite into the room or into the front seat.
Yeah. Maya Angelou said that. Maya Angelou, and it's actually in the signature of my emails.
I love it.
We can't have hope and fear at the same time. And
Yeah.
hope is it's a superpower that we have right now. And we have to feed and fuel hope and not allow fear to take over. Fear is just like, any monkey can be afraid, but it's courageous people who can manage that fear to come out the other side of this with courage and clarity and appreciation, and actually a little bit of joy to nurture, because that's something we should be fueling now too, is joy and beauty. Focus on things. Follow Michelle Valberg on Facebook. Her photos are so inspiring. Look up Jewelry by Fran Green. She posts some beautiful jewelry. Like, find what makes you feel good and just do that. That's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that at all. You've always been about courage. Now I think everybody will know how lucky I am to be in this group with you and to get this kind of, you know, thought process all the time. Every time I meet with you or I hear you, I absolutely love you, Kathie. You do bring an awful lot to the world.
Oh, thank you, Lori. I love you too. I think the same of you. I think you bring a lot to the world. And I love how you do business. I love how you talk about your clients. I love how you serve. And it's very much aligned with what I'm doing. So, you know, I'm grateful today that you've given an opportunity to some other people to maybe have a bit of a different perspective, or some ideas to consider about how maybe they can shift how they see their world too.
Well, you know, the shift, it's really, really important. I think that we just realize that we're at home. Like, home is the most important place where you could possibly be, right? It's not a punishment. It's actually a luxury that we can be home with our family and, you know, and talk to our friends on Zoom and have a dinner party with our friends.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think we have to think of it that way, that to be at home right now, not only is it safe, but it's a real luxury to be able to do that, no matter what else is going on, no matter, you know, whether there's bills to be paid or not, there's still it's a one-time only luxury for us to have this amount of time at home.
And
So
for people who don't have that feeling at home, where they don't feel as comfortable as you and I do,
yeah,
you know, there's help too. And we need to encourage people to ask for support. If you know somebody, if you see this video and you know somebody you know is struggling, make sure they've got somebody they can talk to. It doesn't have to be you, but it should be a professional of some kind. And lots of people are doing Zoom calls to counsel these days. Lots of people are doing phone calls just to keep people, in the lane. Like we want people to feel safe. And if
Yeah.
they don't have that at home, we want to give them support. We want to make sure people have what they need at this time.
I must say there is a lot of support out there. We're all in the same thing. So you can see that, whether it's the government or it's individuals or businesses, everybody is looking for a way to help and to serve and to be there for the
Yeah.
community and for each other. And that is a really beautiful thing,
Yeah.
yeah. So I want to make sure that people know that you have a website, you have a newsletter. If they'd like to sign up for all the gems that you have to say all the time, that it is there. It's kathiedonovan.com. We'll make sure to post all that information. You are a treasure. You've given me a little bit of a love shake a couple of times over the last month. And I certainly appreciate it because I think we all have our moments, in
Oh,
this.
yeah.
And that's okay, right? It's
Hey,
okay.
Lori, I have my moments too, honey bun.
I never see it. You're superhuman. You're one of the superheroes. But what a treasure. Thank you. You've made my day, my week, my month. And I hope that there's been people that have picked something up from this. And if you don't mind, I'll put your contact info, and if they want to reach out or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you are doing amazing things. You've found your place in all of this. I'm sure that we didn't have COVID-19 just so that you could serve your purpose.
You didn't have to create a pandemic.
We didn't have to do that for you at all. But it's wonderful that you can, share with the world at a time that is a big challenge for everyone, that, is an unknown, and we're all just trying to make our way through. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, my dear. I love you to death.
I love you too, Lori, and it's my honor. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Take care. Bye. Okay, we're going to stop it now.